Welcome to the Island Club. I'm Ren Gorter, and today I'm speaking with Toni Kendell and Elise Bishop. Now, Toni and Elise met in Melbourne, where they played together in the band that was called, what was it called?
Called On.
On, okay.
So now, you can't search for it on the internet very easily.
No.
On's the band. And the band was in Melbourne. How long ago was that you started this band?
Oh, it would have been 2001, 2002?
Yeah, about 10 years. 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, when you started this band, you'd already been involved, both of you involved in music quite a bit. I'd just like to know how you actually ended up in Melbourne to go and join a band. Maybe what about you, Toni? You started here in Great Bear Island, didn't you?
Well, I've got family here. I didn't grow up here, but I have got a long association with the island. But I started my musical journey in Auckland. I was given this old crappy bass, and someone just gave it to me and said, "Here, join the band." So I joined the band, and
playing a bass guitar.
Yep. And so I just learned on the job, and then one day I decided to pick up sticks and go to Melbourne, and I kept playing music over there. And then I met Elise.
And before we get to that, Elise, how did you end up in Melbourne?
I was in Palmerston North, where I was studying at Massey University, and studying an arts degree doesn't really give you much job credibility. There was a really good music scene in Palmerston North, and I started playing in bands, and I eventually started mixing live because of the need for a live sound engineer there. And yeah, when I finished university, I went over to Melbourne and I took my only practical skill, which was sound engineering. And yeah, I met Toni.
Yes.
And so you were sound engineering at the time?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You were live mixing, weren't you? That was your job.
Yeah, when I got to Melbourne, I kind of lived off whatever live mixing jobs I could pick up, which was, there were more opportunities over there. There's a lot of bands playing every night. And
so tell us what live mixing is, and how does one get a job doing live mixing?
Live mixing is where you're in a venue and you've mic'd up the whole band, so you mic up the drums and the guitar and bass and the vocals, and you mix them. So it's like being in charge of a big stereo, which is heaps of fun if you're really into music and you like controlling how things sound.
And so you started a band together, or how did this come about?
We had a mutual friend who wanted to start a band.
And she hand-picked who she wanted in that band.
She was kind of into control too, wasn't she? But no, it was good.
Yeah. So me and Toni ended up in a band with two Australians, Marnie McLeod and Tim Krasavac. And yeah,
we called ourselves On. And at the time, Elise was running a
recording studio.
Yeah, a community recording studio. So we would go and practice there and record pretty much every jam that we had.
Yeah, and we had access to a multi-track recording studio there as well. Perks of the job.
So you put some CDs out. I've got one CD here in front of me. From purple decorations. And does the CD have a name?
The CD is self-titled, so it's called On, and it's released on two labels, one from New Zealand called Celebrate Sci Phenomenon, and one from Australia called Source of Light Recordings. That album, though, was actually kind of the end of our journey as a band. We were mostly a live band.
Yeah, we'd played live a lot, and we actually toured the North Island of New Zealand, and then we kind of kept playing in Melbourne, and then we stopped because I was coming over here to start a family. So before I came over to Great Barrier Island to live, we decided that we needed to make an album to kind of finish off the band, I guess.
And yeah, we applied for funding to the arts body in Victoria, and they gave us money to make our album.
And we recorded at PBS.
PBS, which is a community radio station, sort of a youth-based, almost like student radio is over here, but it's sort of came out of student radio, but it's a bigger entity than that now.
Yeah.
So this was a recording that you made as an album, as in one series of sessions?
Well,
Or was
no, it's actually stuff. So probably half of the album was recorded at PBS for the album. One track, there were a few tracks recorded, 4-track. One's a live track from when we toured New Zealand, and we played in Auckland and K Road at a bar.
Paradise Bar?
Yeah.
Above K Road somewhere?
Really?
In St Kevin's Arcade. So, and our friend Stephen Neville, who plays as Pumice, and he plays in bands with Chris Knox and has done a lot of stuff around the world for a long time. He actually recorded that live track on his reel-to-reel tape recorder.
And some of the others are recorded at Jets, which was that community recording studio that you ran.
Yeah. Toni also worked at Jets, the recording studio.
She was my boss. we were doing programs for teenagers with additional needs. We were running musical therapy classes and stuff.
Yep, and we also did a project where we sought out young bands and made music videos and recorded them. And that was supported by the government as well.
So in effect, this has been quite an international album, hasn't it? How much further did it go?
It kind of has. The label that it's on, Celebrate Sci Phenomenon, has released a lot of music internationally. It's all kind of underground stuff, so it's not high profile in New Zealand, but it has a profile right around the world. So it's all about a musical community that's networked through things like the internet and through communication and sharing music. Yeah, so it's part of that.
Now that project started off in Melbourne. In which way did it connect with the music scene down there?
Well, Melbourne's got a strong live scene.
Yeah, really strong live scene. Really good DIY, do-it-yourself kind of thing, eh?
Yeah, but not as much as New Zealand, I don't think.
Different.
Yeah. New Zealand, when we left New Zealand, probably both of us, I would say, was at a time when New Zealand music scene was really strong. So there was a really strong network from Auckland right down to Dunedin, and any New Zealand band could pick up and go on tour, and they'd get supported, they'd get put up by other bands around the country. Other people would help promote their shows. It was a really positive, supportive scene, which I think New Zealand had to be then as well, because it was small and there was no sort of prospect of making a lot of money out of playing music at that time. So everyone was in it for love. Melbourne was kind of a bit different.
Well, I think it was just coming out of that when we got there. I mean, there was still a lot of, homegrown kind of live shows being run, kind of like
small venues. But a bit more divided up than New Zealand. Like, New Zealanders seem to have multiple skills. So if you're in a band in New Zealand, you can generally sound engineer and organise shows and tour manage and do all of it. Whereas in Australia, I think there's more people who specialise in those roles.
I'd be quite interested to talk a little bit more about that, the way the music industry works, both here in New Zealand and Australia. But I just want to take a break and then start a little bit further on those questions.
Okay.